Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let me show you how to build a number spreadsheet to track your stock portfolio. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 2,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. Now, the main purpose of this tutorial is not necessarily to build the perfect stock portfolio tracking spreadsheet. It's to teach you some number skills. If all you want to do is just quickly track your stocks in numbers, there's already a template for that. Go to the template chooser in Numbers, go to Personal Finance, and you'll find My Stocks. Go into that, and you can easily just add your stocks here and track them here. There's even a 30-day history with a chart. But instead, let's create our own from scratch so we can actually learn how things work. So I'm going to choose the blank template here and create a new blank spreadsheet. So I've got the default table here, and we'll just use that to start building. So the header column here is probably a good place to put the stock symbol. So I'll just call this stock. And here's where I'll actually have the symbol. So let's start off with the sample one. We'll use Apple as the sample symbol. The next column, we're going to go and access some stock information. There's a function in Numbers that allows you to get all sorts of information about stocks. And we're going to use it right away here in the first column. So I'm just going to call this name. And we're going to get the name of the stock because sometimes the symbol doesn't really reveal what the stock is. So it'll be useful to actually have the name as well. So I'm going to use the equals key here to start entering a function. And then when I look here on the right, I can see the functions help. And I'm going to look up stock. And there's stock and stock H. We're going to use stock here all the time. And when I select that, I can see the help information here about stock. And there's a lot of different things this can do. So let's start off by typing stock here. And I'm going to select it from the suggestions here. This will fill in the parameters with placeholders. So now I can select symbol, and I can either type the symbol or I'm simply going to select the symbol from the header column here. So it's going to take whatever is in the first column and use that for the stock symbol. And then we have which piece of information we need. Let's click on that and you can see all the pieces of information here. For this column, I'm just going to simply get the name. So I'm going to choose name here and then click the green check mark. Now you can see it correctly figures out that AAPL is Apple Inc. So now we're going to enter some information that the stock function can't know. It can't know how many shares we've purchased and when. So let's start off with purchase date. And then here could be some date. Let's go ahead and say May 1st, 2023. And then the next column, let's go and have the purchase amount. So how much of the stock was bought? 100 shares in this case for an example. And then let's do the purchase price, which isn't necessarily the open or close price on that day, but could be any price in between for that entire day. So we're just going to come up with like a sample amount here, and I'm going to say 100 for $100. And it may not have actually been $100 or anywhere near that on that day. This is just an example. So now I've got all of this. What would be great to do is actually calculate the value of this purchase. So we can do this with the formula here. So we're going to do purchase value. And the purchase value is very simple. I'm going to type equals here to start entering a formula. And it's simply the purchase amount. And then I'm going to use an asterisk for multiplication times the purchase price. And then we get that 100 shares purchased at $100 is $10,000. Simple multiplication here. Now let's get some nicer formatting here. Notice purchase price and purchase value. It just gives us a number. It doesn't give us a dollar value. So I'm going to select both these columns. I'm going to shift click to select the range here. And I got both of these columns. And under format cell, I'm going to choose the data format of currency. I'm going to set it to 0 decimal places and add 1,000 separator so it looks a little nicer there, a little easier to read. So we've got those now there, and this will be the format for all of the cells here in these two columns. So as we add more stocks, we'll get dollar symbols here. Now the next thing we want to add is another column for the current price. Now for this, we're going to use the stock function again. So I'm going to do equals and then stock, and then select this here. The symbol is again going to be the first column there. And then I can choose either price or previous close. So here's where numbers kind of fall short from other spreadsheets. Numbers will only give you the previous closing price. It won't give you the price during the day. Other spreadsheets like Google Sheets will give you, I think, like a 20-minute delayed price. Fortunately, everything I'm teaching here should work pretty much the same in Google Sheets and even Excel as well. So for numbers, really, this is only good for tracking your stocks from day to day, which may be all that you need, but not for tracking in the middle of the day. Even if you were looking for that, having a 20-minute delayed price probably isn't what you want, and you've got some sort of professional software and are paying for that to get the actual current price. So I'm going to choose previous close here and use that. If I had chosen price, I should get the same number. But what I'm afraid of is, since that Apple at one point did give us 20-minute delayed prices, that they might switch to that in the future. And I don't want to change the values here. I want to just stick to having basically a daily price for this column. So the previous closing price is right there. Now I can go ahead and add another column. I'm just going to grab the handle and drag it out, and I'm going to get the current value, which is easy to calculate. It's going to just be the current price times the purchase amount. So 100 in this case, and that's the current value. So this is how much it's worth right now. I can select these two columns too, and even though they're automatically formatted with dollar signs because I'm using the stock price here, I can still go to Format, Cell, and say, no, I definitely want it to be currency, and I want to get rid of the decimal places and add the thousand separator there. Now, what will be nice to actually add here is how much was gained. So this is pretty easy to do. I can actually add another column here, and I can do the gain here, and it's simply going to be the current value minus the purchase value. So that amount there. I can do that as a percentage. Let's add another column, and let's call this gain percent. And that's simply going to be the amount gained and then divided by the purchase value. So in this case, it gives us a 1. We want to make sure we set the format cell to percentage, and then we don't want to have any decimal places here. So in this case, it's 124%, which makes sense. We purchased $10,000 worth, and it's now $22,000 worth. So we gained $10,000, which would have been 100% plus a little bit more, 124% gain. If the current value was the same as the purchase value, the gain would have been 0, and this would have been a 0% gain. So you can continue to add more things if you like. For instance, I can use the stock function here, and I can grab the symbol, and then I can choose one of these other things here. So for instance, if I wanted to have the market cap or volume or something else, I can choose one of these. Let's choose market cap here, and there's the market cap. This number, of course, is a currency, and it's huge. If you wanted to have something more reasonable, you could actually go to data format and create a custom format here. Choose this, and then choose a scale. So I'm going to drag the scale in here, and then say I want it to be billions, like that. Also add a currency amount just before this. So now I've got this number here in billions. So I could say, market cap and indicate that it's billions. Now the cool thing about this is that it's now easy to track other stocks. So let's say that you've got some Microsoft stock. All you need to do is copy and paste all of this here, and you can see it's got the name, it's got the current price and all of that. You do need to go and change your purchase date to whatever that is. Let's make it June 1st. Maybe the purchase amount is 50 shares and the price was $300. And then you've got everything else filled in using formulas. So here you can see that it's a 48% gain. Let's add another one here, and let's do an example of, say, a loss. So I'm going to put this in here, and let's say 250 shares at, let's say, and you can see the current price there is $19 a share. Let's say we purchased at $25 a share. So you can see the purchase value and the current value, and now the gain is negative. The amount is negative right there. Let's select these two columns here, and then go to Format, Cell, and select Conditional Highlighting. And let's add two rules. So the first rule is if the number is greater than 0, then we're going to select green text. And then I'm going to add a second rule that if the number is less than 0, then I'm going to set this to red text. And this is for the whole column there. So notice what this does is under the two gain columns here, it gives me a red number when it's negative. So I lost something, and a green number when it's positive. Now let's shrink this table by grabbing the handle at the bottom and have no blank lines. The neat thing is then that you can add a new stock pretty easily by dragging the bottom here, and it's going to add all the formulas in but leave little blank areas there. So let's add in another stock like that, and let's then fill in these things here. So let's say 10/1/2023 and purchase amount, purchase price, like that. And now we've easily added in another stock. So this is my stocks table. Let's say if I wanted to summarize some things. I'm going to move this down a bit and add another table here. I'm just going to use a completely blank table with no headers or footers. Let's bring it up here to the top, and I'm going to shrink it down, just be 2 columns wide and just 3 high, like that. So this one here, I want to have the total portfolio value. So how would I calculate that? Well, a formula would just be the sum of everything in the current value column here. So I'll just click there, and you can see it says the stocks table, because I named this stocks, and just the column H. And that gives me the total there. And I can do also the change amount, which is going to be that sum of the current value minus the sum of the purchase value right there. So you can see here that's how much it's gained. And I can do change percent by basically taking this number here and dividing it by the sum of the original purchase value. Then if I select that cell there, go to Format Cell, set it to percentage, and then let's have no decimals. Then I can see the change percent. So I can get rid of the table title here, or I can just say Summary. I can even select all these cells here. Then I go to Format and then Cell. Under Border, select the one here that shows all of the borders and change the border style to no border there. And now I've got no border at all. I can take these cells here and have them be right justified, and these cells here and have them be left justified. And I can continue to say, like, maybe Command B to bold those. I can color this up a lot of different ways. I can select all of these cells here. Let's make it a little bit bigger, like that. So you've got some general information here and then all your specific stocks. Last thing I want to show you here is a chart to show you how your portfolio is divided up. So the column that you want to worry about here is the current value. If you take this, select it like that, go to Chart, and then create a pie chart, you're going to see the current value for each of these stocks. So I can see here very easily. So it gives you an idea of how your portfolio is divided up. We can go to Format Wedges here, and we could add data point names so we could see them right in there. We can do the value as either percentage, or we can do currency and actually see the amount. I can also go to Chart here, and I can get rid of the legend since I've got the stock symbols right in this. So now you can go and pretty this up a little bit. I can zoom out and maybe put this chart up here, move this around, maybe make the text even bigger, get it looking like I want. So I hope through this example you learned a lot of basic numbers skills. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.